Lucas Carter, a 13-year-old boy and the son of the new chief of police in town, was walking to his grandmother's house in the Maplewood neighborhood. Lucas loved his grandmother's home. It was his favorite place, always filled with the smell of freshly baked cookies and warm hugs. As he walked, Lucas noticed two police officers walking slowly behind him. He didn't think much of it at first. Maplewood was safe, and the police were supposed to protect people. But the officers kept creeping closer, almost like they were tracking him. He glanced back once, then again, and saw the two officers staring directly at him. Officer Reed and Officer Nelson had stern expressions on their faces, the kind that made people feel scared. Lucas felt uneasy. He wasn't sure why they were following him, but something didn't feel right. Without stopping, he quickly took out his phone and called his father, who had just recently become the chief of police in the very same precinct these officers worked. Lucas's father, Chief Daniel Carter, always told him, "If you ever feel unsafe, call me right away." That very day, those words felt real. As Lucas continued walking, the police officers finally sped up and called for him to stop right there. They didn't smile or ask Lucas any friendly questions. Instead, they looked at him suspiciously, as if he didn't belong. "Hey, kid," Officer Reed said gruffly. "Where do you think you're going?" Lucas swallowed hard and replied, "To my grandmother's house, sir. It's just down the road." But the officers didn't seem to care. They started asking Lucas all sorts of unnecessary questions. They wanted to know why he was walking in the neighborhood where he lived, and even demanded he show them what was in his pockets. Lucas was confused and scared. He kept thinking about his dad and hoped he would arrive soon. Then, before he knew it, Officer Reed started searching through Lucas's pockets without permission. He wasn't holding anything suspicious, just a little box with the scarf he'd bought for his grandma. Still, they continued treating him like he'd done something wrong. Lucas's fear grew, but he tried to stay calm, knowing his father was on his way. Back at the precinct, Chief Carter's phone buzzed with Lucas's call. Seeing the call from his son made him pause, as Lucas rarely called him during school days or visits to his grandmother. Hearing his son's quiet, worried voice on the other end made Chief Carter's heart tighten. Lucas told him about the police officers following him, and the chief wasted no time. He jumped into his car and sped toward Maplewood, hoping he'd get there before anything worse happened. Meanwhile, on the street corner, Officer Reed and Officer Nelson were still questioning Lucas. Officer Reed's tone was harsh as he continued to press Lucas with questions. "Young man, kids like you shouldn't be wandering around here. Are you carrying anything illegal?" he asked, peering down at Lucas with a fierce gaze. "No, sir," Lucas replied, his voice steady but his hands trembling. Officer Nelson, the younger of the two, was watching but didn't say anything. He seemed unsure but followed Officer Reed's lead. They continued to hassle Lucas, ignoring his repeated attempts to explain that he was simply visiting his grandmother. As the officers spoke, Lucas noticed a familiar black car pulling up at the corner, his dad's car. Relief washed over him, and just as Officer Reed was about to ask another question, Chief Carter stepped out of his car and walked toward them. Both officers turned, surprised to see their chief in casual clothes, his face stern. Chief Carter, sir," Officer Reed stammered, realizing who was standing before him. Chief Carter's face showed no hint of friendliness. He looked down at his son, then back up at the officers. "Would one of you care to explain what's going on here?" he asked, his voice firm. The officers exchanged glances, unsure of how to respond. "Chief, we thought he was suspicious, sir. This young man didn't look like he belonged around here," Officer Reed muttered, avoiding Chief Carter's gaze. Chief Carter's voice was calm, but there was no mistaking the disappointment in his eyes. "Suspicious? My son was suspicious?" he asked slowly. "This is my neighborhood. He's visiting his grandmother just down the road." Officer Nelson's face fell, realizing the gravity of their mistake. "Sir, we didn't know," he mumbled. The chief took a step closer, his eyes never leaving theirs. "You didn't know? You never even asked. You assumed," he said, his words sharp. "Tell me, Does a young boy walking to his grandmother's house really look like a threat? Both officers stood silent, clearly uncomfortable under his piercing gaze. From now on, you will treat every single person in this community with respect, just as you would want your family treated, Chief Carter continued. Today, you two crossed a line. The officers nodded, regret clear on their faces. Chief Carter looked back at Lucas, giving him a reassuring nod. "Let's go, son," he said, placing a hand on Lucas's shoulder. As they walked away, Lucas felt proud of his father. Justice had been served, and the officers learned a lesson they wouldn't soon forget. They had bullied the wrong kid, and now they knew the price of assuming too much. The chief knew this wouldn't change everything, but it was a step toward making Maplewood a better, fairer place for everyone. And this brings us to the end of this story. Thank you for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends too. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more fascinating stories. Have a nice day.